Bitcoin price prediction by end of year. How does altcoin season happen? I don't want to round trip it. I want to take profits at least on my altcoins. What are the metrics that I should be looking at to know when it's topping? Today I sit down with crypto billionaire and co-founder of BitMEX, Arthur Hayes, as he shares his crypto investing strategy into 2026.
ETH is the most hated layer one, therefore it'll be the best performing. I'd probably pick XRP. When that happens, it's okay, then it's time to take chips off the table.
Watch today's whole video as Arthur also sounds the alarm for the bond market.
Every asset in the fiat world ties back to the price of these bonds.
Click the like button to support me, and let's start, Arthur, with your background.
Yeah, hi, I'm Arthur Hayes. Currently, I'm the Chief Investment Officer for my family office, Maelstrom. But I got started in crypto in 2013 when I read a Zero Hedge blog post about Bitcoin, I think going to like $250 at the time. When I subsequently lost my job at Citibank as a ETF trader, I wanted to do something different. So I read their white paper, got hooked, started trading, doing arbitrage. Within a year, I had met my two co-founders of BitMEX, Ben Dilo and Sam Reed. We decided to build a Bitcoin derivatives platform called BitMEX. Our claim to fame is the invention of the perpetual swap, which is the most traded crypto financial product ever. Every single exchange has it. I'm sure many of you listeners have traded these things. And yeah, that was what, almost a little over 10 years ago. So I've been in the game for a while and I love this industry. And yeah, this is great.
So, with your macro background, banking background, did you understand Bitcoin immediately or did it take you a while?
I was this bit of a gold bug. So I was, 2011, 12 when gold was ripping. I was buying my little gold coins and storing them in the bank vault. And, I thought the Fed was a complete crock of shit and all these central banks and money printing and all this sort of stuff. So I think I was philosophically aligned. I didn't know about Bitcoin at the time. I wish I had. But when I read the white paper, I was like, okay, this makes a lot of sense. I understand why we need this as, human civilization, and sort of thought, oh, this is great. I found this early enough where I could actually build a business like BitMEX and have some, very great outsized financial success. And I've been in this industry ever since.
For the folks at home, why is Bitcoin going up?
So I think there's two things. I break it down into technology and liquidity, dollar liquidity, fiat liquidity. So essentially, technology is the blockchain, right? This ability to coordinate all of these self-interested actors to, number one, upkeep this network, and number two, issue this endogenous coin, Bitcoin, that essentially pays for all the energy that we spend to validate and store these transactions. So there's that part. Obviously, it's still an experiment, but it works. And it's been working, since 2009 with the Genesis block. So, and obviously the Bitcoin core code base doesn't change very much for obvious reasons, security, those sorts of things. And so the technology piece is, pretty ossified. What we're really focused on is liquidity. How many units of fiat are there in the world? How many will there be in the future? And because the Bitcoin supply is fixed at 21 million units of Bitcoin, if the amount of fiat grows to infinity, which it can because it can be printed at will by the government, then the price of Bitcoin can go to infinity as well in fiat units. And because it's starting from such a small place relative to the total amount of debt-based financial assets in the world, I think it's something like 300 trillion or some big number. This is why Bitcoin has outperformed the debasement of fiat currencies since it's launched in 2009 versus, if you bought S&P 500 or maybe an apartment, yes, it's gone up in value, but has it gone up faster than the amount of money that's been created in that time span? And so that's kind of what is my guiding light in terms of how I view Bitcoin and its fiat value is, does it outpace the rate of debasement of global fiat currencies? Or in another way, does it maintain or improve its value in energy terms, which is basically, how many barrels of oil can you buy with a Bitcoin?
So I understand that global liquidity, M2, is going up, but like, why is it going up? Are other countries cutting or what?
I mean, there's a variety of reasons, but at the end of the day, there's a lot of debt. There's not a lot of growth, enough growth to service the debt. And so instead of allowing the system to self-correct and, expunge a lot of credit, people go bankrupt, people lose their jobs, what have you. the authorities around the world say, okay, that's politically unpalatable, so we're just going to print the money and make sure that on a nominal basis, if you lent a dollar, a euro, a yuan, a yen, you're going to get back that same unit. Okay, but the real value of that unit, whether you look at it versus gold, versus oil, versus Bitcoin, that is going to decline.
Is there an edge that nobody's seeing? Because I look on crypto Twitter and people are talking about liquidity. This is the fourth year of the 4 year cycle. It's like, what are people missing, or do we just have it?
I mean, number one, I don't subscribe to a 4 year cycle. I don't think, yes, it has worked in the past. It doesn't necessarily mean it'll work in the future. So I think, that's just my personal view. What are people missing? I don't think people are missing a lot. I think people just want to they want the end game to happen in 1 minute, right? Oh, I put this trade on, I use a lot of leverage. Oh yeah, I do believe in the fundamental thesis of money printing, they're just gonna keep printing the money. But okay, can they just do this like immediately? Let's not wait 10 years. Like, let's do it right now so that that trade I put on automatically shows me a profit and I can go quit my job and buy a Lambo. I think that's the problem. And
Mhm.
so, yes, the authorities are going to print the money over time, but they're not going to do it on your time schedule. And maybe this is going to be a little bit of a wave. Sometimes they're going to print too much, like they did in COVID, and then they're going to say, "Oh, let's pare it back a bit." But oh no, we can't pare it back because that's going to, blow up the system. Let's print some more money again. And it's sort of this, up and down sort of pace of money printing that creates these, bullish and bearish impulses in Bitcoin and crypto assets. And those people who have or who are impatient and who use a lot of leverage get wiped out. And that's why people say, "Oh, it's a bear market." Okay, cool, yeah, but over time, Bitcoin has been the best performing asset in human history for over this time span. So I think people get it right, but then they're just too impatient.
Besides liquidity, what is like one other metric that you look at that's in your Rolodex that you're checking in at for Bitcoin?
The MOVE index. So this is bond market volatility in the U.S. Treasury market, which is obviously the most important debt market in the world, as it underpins the global reserve currency, the US dollar, and is the thing that the empire, the US government, is issuing to fund itself. And so every asset in the fiat world ties back to the price of these bonds. So they're very, very important. So when these bonds become illiquid or volatility increases, that's bad for the system. And then the policymakers have to step in and print money to make sure that this market stays well functioning. So over time, when this index hits about 135 to 140, there's pretty much an immediate response from policymakers to do some sort of money printing to make sure that the bond market continues to function. And so if you want to look at a smoke alarm for, okay, shit's about to happen, I better, that doesn't necessarily mean Bitcoin's going to go up immediately, but I do know that when something happens that's bad for bonds, at least the US Treasury market, there will be some way that they print money, and Bitcoin will outperform subsequent to that action.
So there's the lack of liquidity in the bond market. We're seeing people scared out there for bonds. Will they call it QE, or will they just find some way to prop it up themselves?
Maybe they'll call it QE, maybe they'll call it something else. I think QE is basically being conflated with inflation, which it is. People don't like inflation for obvious reasons. When you have inflation and you are a democratically elected leader, you get voted out of office. When you have inflation and you're an autocrat, there's a revolution. And so, regardless of what type of political system you have, you don't want widespread inflation. And so, if the public perceives quantitative easing as money printing, and that is the policy of the central bank, then they go, "Oh, these guys are just printing money as inflation, therefore they're the bad guys," right? So then they call it something else. They obfuscate and so all these sort of academic jargon so that you don't understand what they're actually doing. But at the end of the day, it's money printing and it will be inflationary.
Arthur, you're about to be at Bitcoin conference, largest conference in the United States. I'll be there too, but you're going to get this question. So I'm just want get it to you first so you have time to think about it. Bitcoin price prediction by end of year and why?
I've been on record pretty much standard 250,000. Why? Because humans like round numbers. So I think that sounds nice. I don't really have sort of this mathematical formula. Like if M2 is this, then I, take this coefficient and therefore the Bitcoin price, like, we're dealing with irrational humans here. And so I think that's a nice round number. And that's what we're going to get to.
And then how does altcoin season happen if you still think it will happen?
I think altcoin season will happen. It just won't be as widespread as maybe you hope. So that piece of coin that you own in your portfolio that's been around for a few years. They've had a chance to onboard clients, sell them a product or service that the client pays for, and to give you some of that revenue back to you. Most of your projects in your portfolio don't do any of those things, and so they're not going to participate in the altcoin rally. Let's say that ETH, catches a bid, gets the 4 or 5 thousand whatever level. I don't think we're going to see the 2021. You just throw in, throw some money and then you just all of a sudden you're up 10x, right? It's going to be very specific about which coins go up. I think we're going to have a lot more quality coins doing well. And then obviously the new thing, whatever that is, where it's unproven and people can dream, cool. We'll be slinging shit all over the place. And I don't know what that is. I'll be there trading it just like everybody else, but that'll be altcoin season. But like, yeah, the dead coin in your portfolio that you're just hoping is just going to rally just because alts are going up in general. I think that trade's done.
I know you still hold it, I assume, but do you still believe in ETH?
What does believe mean? Well, I still hold it, so I guess that's believe. It's my money, right? So if I don't believe in it, or I don't believe it's not going to go up, I'm not going to hold
Yeah, yeah.
it.
And I mean, like, in 2021, NFTs, that was the hype thing of that cycle, and that was the dream. And now we're seeing Solana and Sui maybe and other ones, they've done better than ETH. So is ETH old, doesn't have the shine anymore, still going to be around? Do you still believe?
It doesn't have it doesn't have the shine anymore. It's been around a long time, but fundamentally, it's still largest community of developers, most secure proof of stake blockchain based on total amount, secured. So if you're going to launch a proper, DeFi application, it's going to be on Ethereum. And if you think about all the primitives that we have created in this industry, they started on Ethereum, not on Solana, right? That's not to say that Solana isn't going to go up in price. That's not what I mean. But I think ETH is the most hated layer one. Therefore, it'll be the best performing if you have a unit of fiat today. That's what I'm going after. Just mean reversion. Very simple stuff.
Do you subscribe to the idea that a value proposition of ETH will be institutions will like it? One, because it's the most secure, trusted, been around a long time, but two, they can create a layer two and be in control of that. And if IBM wants to be there and control their own thing, but then settle on the main chain, they'll like that better than just everybody going to Solana.
I don't know. I mean, I think we have all these layer twos. It's not really clear that all the layer two activity leads to ETH price pumping because obviously it hasn't given all the activity on sort of Arbitrum and, you know, optimism and these other layer twos. So I don't, if that's your thesis, we can look in the history and see that it kind of hasn't really been a price driver of ETH. I mean, honestly, I don't know what the narrative is going to be. Price creates the narrative. So if the price is going up, then all of a sudden, oh my God, ETH is so secure. Oh my God, there's so many developers in ETH. Oh my God, they've created all these really cool DeFi applications. Oh my God, there's all this art on ETH. And so it's a secondary effect of the price going up. You justify it with all these other things.
Arthur, degen with me a little bit here. Next question is, if you had to pick in 2025, XRP or Cardano?
Ooh, I'd probably pick XRP. I think that Garlinghouse is a lot more political gravitas than Hoskinson, Cardano.
So you think he's in the trenches, in the White House trenches, and he's got the. You say yes?
Yeah, he's got more juice than Cardano. No, they're
Also,
both piece of dog shit, but like if I'm gonna pick one, it's Ripple.
got you. And Cardano has a lot of competition in the L1 space. XRP, they're stellar, but in terms of narrative, it's really differentiated itself as, oh, we're working with the banks and remittances, and now they have DeFi.
Okay, maybe. I don't know if there's any that's actually true, but okay.
I'm just
If
talking
that's a
narrative.
narrative, that's a narrative. Yeah.
Let me ask you this, Arthur. I'm looking to take profits. I don't want to round trip it. I want to take profits at least on my altcoins this cycle. What are the metrics that I should be looking at to know when it's topping?
Well, I think that's a global thing. So I usually, obviously, I'm not in the trenches looking at specific coins all day. We have people on the team who are doing that. As a CIO, I'm looking more like, okay, well, do I think that the expectation of pace of money printing is divergent from what's actually going to happen? And when that happens, is okay, then it's time to take chips off the table. So there's no price target per se, because again, you're never gonna sell at the top or buy at the bottom. And if you try, you're gonna get blown up. So you might as well have a more sustainable framework for when you're going to, you know, go shorter altcoin risk versus longer. And so that's sort of what I look at. That's what guided me to sort of reduce, pretty much sell everything in our shitcoin portfolio pre-inauguration, January 20th of Donald Trump in the United States. That's what decided, when April 2nd to 9th happened, and global markets shit the bed, and then all of a sudden there was the tariff pivot, and then Besson coming out saying he's going to do treasury buybacks. So like, okay, well now it's risk on. Now let's go back into the alts that I think are quality and buy more Bitcoin. So there wasn't really a specific price target. I don't like to use price targets or specific time frames, because when you put these binary those specific events on a chart, the market's going to abuse you at that point.
But if you, the specific event you're talking about is when they're risk on, that's when you'll maybe do an action, and when they're risk off. So there's no timeline for it, but you're just watching and waiting to see when the
Correct.
shifts happen.
Correct.
Got you, got you. Arthur, advice for any new crypto investor out there besides watch the liquidity.
Be patient. You're not gonna. There's no easy button. The best traders in the world, didn't make all their money on their first trade. So don't try to do that either, because you're just gonna blow up.
For Bitcoin, and let's have a little fun here. Think, 50 years down the line, what could be? People say Bitcoin's going to hit a million by 2030, maybe 2035. In 50 years, when, by the way, there's still the halvings are still happening. Who knows if they'll be relevant? I'm just saying they're still going to happen. What's that future? Is AI trading the Bitcoin? What do you think?
I don't know. I don't really care. It doesn't matter. I mean, do you think the governments are going to continue to print money, or um, campaign on "I will give you free shit"? So if you don't think that's the case, then maybe at some point you're going, okay, well, Bitcoin's had a run. I'm going to cash in into some fiat, maybe buy some real asset, and blah, blah, blah. If you think that the elected officials are going to continue hey, I'll give you some goodies and I'll pay for them with printed money, then Bitcoin's going to continue to do extremely well. What that value is, again, that's a fool's errand. I don't know what the value is going to be.
Arthur, what do you think the future of something like Tron is, which is still very relevant with stablecoins overseas? We're getting the US stablecoin bill in America. Is that friction at all?
I don't know anything about Tron. Never used it.
It's fair enough. I guess only people in Asia use it, but you lived in China for years, did you not?
I mean, I still live in Asia, so yeah. But I don't really. I've never used Tron. I mean, I know Justin. That does knock anything that he has created. I know people use it. Do I know how they use it? I don't know.
But what do you think the implications are for US is finally regulating stablecoins? To me, that would mean there's going to be people in the light and people in the shadows, at least for the regulatory aspect of it. Now, Justin is with World Liberty Fi. The Trumps love him. So I'm not saying Tron specifically, but I guess what are the implications that the US is finally regulating crypto payments?
Doesn't mean anything, because in the U.S., people have Venmo, Cash App, bank transfer. Like, people in the U.S. earn dollars. They have dollar bank accounts. You can get a dollar bank account. It might be not as easy as you like, but pretty much anyone who wants one can get a U.S. dollar bank account. So if I give you a stable coin that's a little bit faster, marginally cheaper, are you going to use it? Maybe, maybe not. It's not a 10x better product. So, okay, yeah, there's going to be a lot of VCs pouring money into all these stablecoin startups because there's a new bill and there's, clarity and whatnot. But they're not going to make any money. And okay, the U.S. consumer gets a marginally better product for a marginally better price. Okay, fine, cool, whatever. Does that affect the rest of the world? Tether will be laughing. Oh, great, great. You guys can go spunk $100 billion on building all these dumb fintech startups that are competing with a product that's marginally better. I'm going to continue offering US dollar bank accounts to everybody else in the world who can't get one. The US stablecoin bill does nothing to address that fact, because they can't, right? That's a private bank's decision on whether or not they're going to open dollar bank accounts for somebody in Argentina or Indonesia or in the Philippines, right? But that's where Tether is strong. They have a real product market fit. This stablecoin bill doesn't mean anything. It's just, and I think there's going to be a JP Morgan coin, a Citibank coin, whatever. Cool. That great. US consumer, marginally better product, better price. Does that have any impact on a Tron or a Tether? No.
Let's pivot back to Bitcoin. If 250K by the end of the year, maybe, nobody knows, but if Bitcoin would only still be at $100,000 in 5 years, what had happened? What had gone wrong?
I wouldn't say anything gone wrong, because you could say the same thing. Bitcoin was at 15,000 in 2022 and it had topped what 20,000 in 2017, right? A 5 year time span is lower than the previous all-time high. Did that mean that something went wrong? No, that's just a market cycle. So I wouldn't say there was anything right or wrong. It's just the market cycle.
Then what could go wrong that Bitcoin doesn't work? Because I honestly do get this question to my normie friends at parties. They start watching.
When you say what it doesn't work, does it mean I didn't make 5 times my money and get a Lambo? That it doesn't work,
No, no,
or
no.
it means like the transactions failed and all of a sudden immutability of the blockchain that happened and Bitcoin didn't work.
It means it went to zero, not relevant. It's a product of the 2010s and 2020s.
Okay, then there's some sort of technological flaw in this Byzantine fault tolerance system, right? In the proof of work system. That is what goes wrong.
And I would say, because when my normie friends ask me things like this, but the code is all public. The smartest minds in the world are looking at it, have looked at it, and it's, I assume, incredibly hard to get consensus to input an update into the Bitcoin code if/when that ever happens.
I mean, it's tech, right? There's no such thing as in the universe. There's no such thing as safety. There's no 100% safe thing. We're taking risk every day, doing everything we do, living this life in this universe. So to say, is Bitcoin going to be 100% working means that you don't understand your own existence as a human being in this universe. So I think this is a dumb question.
I think a lot of my questions have been really smart. That one was dumb, I guess. Arthur, thank you so much. Links for all your stuff down below. Final thoughts.
Buy everything.
Done.